Hi. I'll bet you weren't betting on another Pastor Kelly video, but fear not, this is not a sermon or worship service from the back room of my house. This is an introduction I need to do for the Myers-Briggs conversation we'll be having Thursday night. And before I share results with you, I need to, as an administrator, meet certain criteria of letting you know some details about the Myers-Briggs and what it is. So I'm going to possibly read a little bit. It might just be easier than trying to use my own words. The Myers-Briggs type indicator is a self-report questionnaire designed to make Carl Jung's theory of psychological types understandable and useful in everyday life. The results identify valuable differences between normal, healthy people, differences that can be the source otherwise of much misunderstanding and miscommunication. The authors were Catherine Cooks Briggs and her daughter Isabel Briggs Myers, who were passionate about studying personality differences. They were not psychiatrists like Carl Jung, but they studied his theories and ideas and applied them in putting them into a kind of survey that helped identify those differences and apply them for useful understanding and purposes. During World War II, they began developing the indicator based on Carl Jung's personality type theory in order to better utilize human resources, the people when there was a need for more people in the workforce and more women were going to work while the men were at war. They hoped to better match people's innate skills to different needs in the workforce. And part of psychological type is a theory of personality that Swiss psychiatrist, again, Carl Jung, developed. And based on his observations, he had the theory that differences in behavior between us result from our innate tendencies to use our minds in different ways, that we have preferred ways of taking in information, kind of processing and perceiving the world, and different ways that we preferred to come to conclusions and make decisions based on that information. And so the Myers-Briggs indicator has 4 different categories. So the results will show 4 different letters for different types, and there are 16 possible combinations of that. So if you were to write with your dominant hand, sign your name on a piece of paper, and you can go ahead and do that if you'd like. It's kind of a nice example of how this works. Then when you're finished with that, sign your name again, but with your non-dominant hand. And what most people will say is that when we sign with our dominant hand, it feels like second nature. You could talk, you can look around, you don't have to necessarily be paying attention to do it well, because using that hand is your preference, and the development of the ability to write in it, let alone sign your own name, has become second nature because you've done it so much. Whereas unless you broke your hand, your dominant hand, and had to write with your non-dominant hand and learn to do it fairly well, to use your non-dominant hand feels clunky and awkward. It may not look good. It may take more concentration. And that's the theory behind our personality types, that there are ways that we unchangeably have preferences about how we interact with the world that affect our taking in of information, our engagement in the world. But we may, for a job or for a family member or for some need that we have to get by in the world, become better at the things that aren't necessarily preferences. So in those 4 categories, there are 2 letters within each. And the belief is that we do not change our innate preferences over time. Our personalities don't change, but we are shaped, our competence in our non-preferred ways of being are shaped and informed and developed over time and by having a lot of life experiences. And so we'll go a little more into depth with that on Thursday evening. So I will be sharing your personality type, which will be 4 letters, and a little bit of information about that, but we'll do a lot more conversation about that on Thursday. And I hope this is at least a helpful introduction on what the theory is and a general overview of how it was created and what it's for. I will see you soon.